The scale of the government's initiative will match the challenges of our time.
The palace had never felt this heavy before. The silence inside Buckingham was almost painful. King Charles stood alone in that massive blue drawing room, and though the walls shimmered with royal portraits, his eyes were lost. His face pale, drained, but still proud, carried a truth that had been eating away at him for months. "I can no longer serve as your king," he whispered, and that single line cracked centuries of royal tradition like glass shattering in slow motion.
He had some response to it, some adverse side effects that required him to be admitted to hospital for a short period for observation.
This wasn't about politics. This wasn't about scandal. This was something raw, deeply personal, an illness, a secret struggle, and a promise he could no longer keep. Across the room, William and Catherine stood frozen, their hearts pounding as if the crown itself had become a ghost hovering above them. The air was thick, the silence deafening. History was rewriting itself in that very room.
It is a belief in the extraordinary ability of each person to touch with goodness and compassion.
The monarchy had just shifted forever, but what caused it would shake the very core of the royal family. Behind those flawless smiles and perfectly worded press statements was a truth they'd hidden for months. King Charles had been fighting a battle far grimmer than anyone outside his inner circle could imagine, a private war against a ruthless illness. To the world, it looked like just rest or routine treatment. But those closest to him saw more canceled appearances, shorter speeches, trembling hands, and that faint wheeze when he stood too long. The cracks in his royal facade were growing, and soon the truth couldn't stay hidden any longer. Those hospital visits, they weren't routine. They were urgent, quiet, and heartbreaking. Arranged secretly.
Breaking news in the United Kingdom, where King Charles III has been diagnosed with
Masked as meetings, tucked between public duties. And when the doctors whispered the word cancer, everything changed. Not the kind that grants you years, the kind that pushes you to face the truth head on. The kind that makes even kings question what matters most. Then came that cold gray afternoon that would alter the course of the monarchy. Charles stood trembling, eyes fixed on a photograph of his grandchildren. He took a deep breath and began, "I speak to you today with feelings of profound sorrow." And then, as the cameras rolled and history held its breath,
"The grace of God, of the United Kingdom, of Great Britain, and of his other realms and territories."
He said it the unthinkable. "I can no longer serve as your king." It wasn't a resignation, it was a surrender from the heart. The man who waited 70 years for the throne was walking away from it, not in scandal, not in disgrace, but out of pure love and duty. What would drive a king to step down voluntarily? What heartbreak could make a monarch say goodbye to his crown? That's the story that sent shockwaves across Britain. Inside the palace, whispers told of his long battle with the disease, one that drained him faster than even he admitted. He'd been smiling through ceremonies, shaking hands, meeting dignitaries, all while his body failed him in silence. But his pride remained. "Charles Cooper, so nice to see you again," he'd say with a polite grin, hiding the pain behind his voice. But when the doors closed, the weight of the crown crushed him. Nights became longer, his steps slower, and in those sleepless hours, he'd sit alone, gazing at that same photograph of George, Charlotte, and Louis, wondering if they deserved a monarch full of life, not one fading away in duty. Camilla tried to be strong. There were nights when she found him quietly praying, whispering about his legacy. One evening, his voice cracked as he said, "They deserve a vibrant, energetic monarch." And that's when the decision began to take root. Soon after, Buckingham Palace called an urgent meeting. Only the most trusted advisors were present. The room felt cold, the tension so thick it could choke you. Charles stood before them, his voice trembling yet determined. "I cannot carry on as your sovereign while my health fails me. I have spoken with my family, with the Queen, and I have reached a conclusion no monarch has willingly reached in modern times. I intend to abdicate the throne." Gasps filled the room. No one dared move. The last time a British monarch stepped down willingly was nearly a century ago. But Charles wasn't fleeing scandal, he was surrendering to truth. I do this not out of weakness, he continued, but out of love for my country, my family, and the future of the crown. Weeks before the public announcement, William and Catherine were called to Balmoral. The meeting was heartbreaking. William begged him not to go through with it. "Father, you don't need to do this. Rest. Take time. We'll manage." But Charles shook his head. The nation needs certainty, not sympathy. It needs your youth, your strength. You and Catherine are ready, even if you don't believe it yet. Catherine broke down. She'd spent years preparing for her role as Princess of Wales, but this was another world entirely. Still, she knew deep down that this was destiny knocking too soon. When Charles appeared live to deliver his final royal address, the world stopped. The king stood frail but resolute, his voice quivering with emotion. "My beloved people, when I took the oath to serve as your king, I did so with my whole heart. Yet life gives us moments of reflection. Over the past year, I have faced great challenges. After consulting my doctors, my family, and my conscience, I can no longer fulfill the duties required of me. Therefore, with deep love and unwavering faith, I announce my abdication from the throne of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth realms." Tears filled the eyes of those around him. The silence after that sentence was haunting. Then came the words that changed history forever. "I declare my son, Prince William, and his wife, Princess Catherine, as my rightful successors. They will ascend the throne as King William V and Queen Catherine." That night, Britain wept not because they were losing a king, but because they were witnessing one of the most selfless acts of leadership in modern history. The news spread like wildfire across the world. Cameras flashed, headlines screamed, "King Charles abdicates!" But behind every headline was heartbreak and love. William and Catherine were summoned to Balmoral again, this time to face what no royal couple ever wants to face, the moment destiny becomes reality. They arrived in the middle of the night, escorted quietly, the castle bathed in mist. Inside, Charles waited, pale but calm. "I cannot go on," he whispered. "William, it's time." William, ever the dutiful son, refused at first. "Father, please, you've given everything. The nation will understand. We'll share the load." But Charles, with that fatherly gentleness, said, "This is not about me. It's about your children, about the people. They cannot endure another royal crisis. They need stability, they need hope, and that hope is you." Catherine stood silently, tears in her eyes. She looked at her husband, then at the king, and realized this was it. The life they knew was over. Later that night, she broke down in the Balmoral bedroom, whispering, "How can we ever be ready for this?" William took her hand. "We'll do it for them, for the country, for everyone counting on us." By dawn, they had made their decision. The next morning, Charles stood facing the window as William and Catherine entered the drawing room. William placed a hand on his father's shoulder. "If this is truly your wish, we accept. We'll serve with all our hearts." Catherine nodded silently beside him, her eyes red but steady. There were no speeches, no pomp, just quiet acceptance between three people bound by duty and love. Days later, at Adelaide Cottage, William and Catherine sat with their children George, Charlotte, and Louis. The fireplace flickered softly as William spoke gently. "Grandpa has decided he can't be king anymore. He's asked me to step in. And that means one day, George, you'll be king too." George froze, trying to process the words. "Will we have to leave home?" he whispered. Catherine hugged them tightly. "Life will change," she said softly, "but we'll do it together. Always." The next morning, the nation woke to the announcement King Charles III had abdicated, the first monarch in modern history to do so not out of scandal, but out of love and foresight. Leaders around the world praised his courage. A graceful exit, Canada's Prime Minister called it. A redefinition of leadership, said another. But all eyes turned toward the new King and Queen, William and Catherine, and something extraordinary happened. The people didn't resist the change. They embraced it. Catherine became the symbol of calm and grace the monarchy desperately needed. The people's queen, the headline said. Polls soared with record approval. Her humility, her warmth, her family-first attitude, this was the monarchy reimagined. As for Charles, he retreated quietly to Sandringham. There, in the gardens he loved, he found peace at last. He wrote, reflected, and spent hours tending to roses, teaching William from afar. You can't lead forever, he'd once told a close friend, but you can teach forever. And that became his true legacy. Not the king who waited a lifetime, but the one who loved his country enough to let go. When historians look back, they'll remember that moment as the dawn of a new era. An era where strength wasn't about holding on, it was about knowing when to step aside. As Coronation Day approached, Britain wasn't mourning the end of a reign. It was celebrating renewal, a fresh beginning under King William V and Queen Catherine, two hearts carrying the weight of the crown and the hopes of a nation. And yet, even as the coronation preparations began, there was an air of quiet melancholy in the palace. Everyone knew this wasn't the kind of transition the monarchy had ever imagined. The golden carriages, the trumpets, the dazzling regalia, none of it could hide the ache of farewell lingering in the corridors of Buckingham. Behind every smile was the shadow of a man who had carried the crown with dignity until his very body could no longer keep pace with his heart. In Sandringham, King Charles woke early each morning to the sound of birds outside his study window. The once bustling palace schedule had been replaced by something gentler: letters, old photo albums, long walks through dew-covered gardens. Those who visited him said he looked more at peace than ever before, as though the burden had finally lifted. It's strange, he reportedly told a friend. For the first time in my life, I feel free, but I also feel the weight of everything I've let go. Camilla remained his constant companion, quietly proud yet protective. They would sit together by the fireplace, reading the day's papers that now bore William and Catherine's faces. There were moments when tears filled her eyes, but Charles would reach for her hand, smiling faintly. It's their time now, darling. Ours was just the bridge. Meanwhile, William and Catherine faced an entirely new kind of storm. The world adored them, but expectations were suffocating. Every step, every word, every gesture was dissected. Behind palace gates, they leaned on each other more than ever. Catherine spent long evenings reviewing speeches, determined to blend empathy with authority. William, often pacing by the window, confessed to aides that he sometimes still expected his father to call and take back the throne. It doesn't feel real yet, he admitted. It feels like I'm filling in until he returns. But with each passing day, they began to settle into the rhythm of kingship. Their first joint public address as king and queen was simple but powerful. William spoke of service, of continuity, of gratitude to his father. Catherine's calm presence beside him told the world everything. It wasn't just a monarchy continuing, it was a family healing in public view. And somewhere far away, Charles watched that broadcast with tears glistening in his tired eyes. He's ready, he whispered to Camilla. They both are. For the first time in decades, the king who had waited a lifetime finally rested, not as a ruler, but as a father who had fulfilled his last and greatest duty, ensuring the future of the crown.